Okay. All right. Welcome back to Soul Invictus. So I've had a question a few weeks ago, and I've been trying to get back to it, and I'm able to actually go on this question now. This will be the first question or response that I have from my channel here. Thank you, Mary, for this question. I'm going to go ahead and answer this as far as a public video goes, because there's a lot. I mean, you asked me up there, a pretty big packed question here. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to read this slowly. I'm going to just slowly answer this as I go through this, okay? So it says, I really enjoyed your mention how Norse mythology can relate, which I think it and others do too. Seems like you are tying it all together. Period. Okay, so let me answer that a little bit. As far as what I've been able to research and understand with Norse mythology, everything I've been able to put together seems likely that Thor was kind of a good guy. He was kind of a good guy. And it seems very likely that he was son of man, son of earth. Either Thor was a representation of Jesus for the Norse, or it was some kind of powerful being that was there to help them. It's hard to put that together. I'm trying to figure that out more, and that's taking some time. That might take me the longest time, honestly, because I'd have to go through more Norse again to get a decent understanding. But as far as other things go, there's a lot of tie-ins with that when I try to tie some of that together. So Norse mythology and other mythologies and things like that, there's a lot of tie-ins with a lot of things. So anyways, let's go on from there. Also really appreciate your respect of Jesus' teachings. I've researched Gnosticism because I believe they hold keys to much understanding, and mostly found dry academia, Christians against it, or really anti-Jesus, saying they were Gnostic but seemed to embrace archon vices and the occult. So this reading and your perspective was really refreshing. Period. Let me answer this too. So I'm just kind of answering as I'm going along because it's a big paragraph here. So those that don't know, probably look at some other videos. You probably see this question. But so here's the thing. So Gnosticism, holding keys. Now I know a lot of people that are with a lot of main churches and stuff. They'll look at Gnosticism and it'll be like, you'll find videos on Gnosticism on YouTube and on other stuff, and it goes so crazy that I'm just like, you'll get pushed to like really, I don't know, far out there bad things, and you try to look up popular understandings of it. But really what it means is looking for knowledge, research of knowledge, and all that kind of stuff. And so, it's to know, and that's really what it's about. So when you find dry academia, you find the stuff that seems to be more popular, the reason that the popularized stuff, it doesn't follow the Gnosticism, is because it's not trying to promote Gnosticism in a sense, really. They're not actually trying to promote it. So there will be people that try to dissuade you down the wrong paths, which is what you're talking about with the occult and stuff. But the occult is just pretty much hidden knowledge too. So that's kind of a tough question, honestly, because trying to look into what Jesus had to say and trying to follow what Jesus was trying to talk about in a Gnostic way, you'll be led down some wrong paths. And that's what I've been able to see, it seems, when I've been able to try to look from a very popular perspective. It seems like they want to push you down the wrong idea of what Jesus had to say and what he talked about do flow a lot through what I've been able to read in the NAG Hammadi here, and it does seem to kind of go along with that. So what I'd have to say is that just be careful, what you research and what you read. If it doesn't seem to vibe, like it doesn't seem to go along with what Jesus had to say and how he was mostly in the Old Testament trying to be a peace, He was sort of a hippie in a way. I mean, he kind of was, and being peaceful and loving and trying to talk about that sort of message. If it's going back to the Old Testament, we need to go in war and kill everybody. That's where that's where I would say, like, don't go that direction, because let's go on with the question here, because basically this is what you're asking here. So it says, totally agree with demonic influence in the Old Testament God, archon bracketed. And so that's where I'm going with this, is that the Old Testament God, according to a lot of Gnostic understandings of things that were thrown away and that they weren't put into the Bible, they were pretty much burned or thrown to the side, is that the Old Testament, or the old Christians that were all about the Gnostic idea that the Old Testament God was a bad God and all that, that got dissuaded. That's why the Catholic Church does not promote this kind of stuff, because they want to merge the old idea of what the Jews followed with what the Gnostic Christians followed. So they wanted to cut that and divide it, and then they got rid of these old texts. Military stratagem, very possible, trying to get everybody under their control as far as a religion perspective goes, because then, well, you can send those types of people out to war a little more readily without them being so anti-war, like, which is what the Cathars were, and that's what the Catholics did go and attack. And the Catholics also did go and attack Valdensians, and they attacked anybody else that wasn't a part of their sect. But beforehand, what Jesus had to say, it never really vibed with any of that stuff. When he told Peter, Peter cut off the ear of the slave of the master, live by the sword, die by the sword, basically saying, don't do that. You don't want to live that way. So what Jesus was saying initially doesn't really go along with a lot of the Old Testament. Go to war and kill them all, man, woman, child, which is where I'm coming to with this question. So I agree with that too. I think that it's a demonic influence. Now, whether those people were possessed by a demon or whether those people were just, crazy people that were sending everybody out to die, for their ideals, it's hard to say from an old, way back in the Old Testament. But this is where I've come to, and this is where I've been able to understand and go with it. Jesus had a very peaceful message that he had to say. And I know there's a few discrepancies there, like he came to bring the sword, he came to divide. Well, the division was the same thing, what he said in the New Testament. You can't fill a new wineskin with old wine. You can't fill an old wineskin with new wine. It's going to burst. So you can't fill up the idea of what he has to say with the old ideas of what they were doing, which is what basically, from my understanding, is that's what Jesus was basically saying. Hey, you guys got to get rid of all this old ideology and start to work with this new ideology as far as an understanding of what a true source loving creator is. So this is where I come to, and this is why I've been doing this as far as this channel goes, trying to help with that understanding. But I think people that come here and they watch this and they listen, they start to feel that inside too, because this is kind of how we are and how we want to be for others. We want to be peaceful and loving to others. We don't want to go kill everybody because they believe the wrong ideal of God. I mean, that's just craziness right there. And I think it's been a tool for war, pushed into a modernized, homogenized version of it to be used as a tool for war. So people will go kill each other for someone's territory, essentially. Because that's what governments eventually end up wanting to do. They want to control this, and they turn themselves into something, and then they use every platform and everything available to them to expand and gain more resources. Problem is, two different countries and all that, they end up doing that. They'll use people in all kinds of ways. And I think a lot of the major things with the Holy Bible has been used for that. But with the NAG Hammadi and stuff, it's kind of been one of those things, one of those hidden gems, you pick up and you're like, holy cow, I didn't know about any of this before. And reading through, there's a lot to read through here. I'm still reading through this. It's not a super easy read, but it's definitely an interesting read, and it just puts a lot of perspective as far as like what I've been able to glean from it, and how it's been able to help me. So I hope I'm answering these questions in a way that you can understand. So I'm just trying to go along with the question and answer as I get to it. So anyways, what are your thoughts on Trick by Light Reincarnation Trap video, please? So this is a really, really tough question, because I think a lot of people want to know this. They want to know, am I going to get tricked in the afterlife? Am I, is there a light out there that's going to trick me? I could give you some of my personal, like, death or near-death experience and out-of-body experiences and stuff, but I think really what it comes down to is it seems to constantly portray through here, even if I read the teachings of Sylvanus, which will answer your next question here too, and then I read a lot of the other scriptures in here, and you can read in the New Testament as well, is that the devil's like a prowling lion waiting to devour. And so if we have to be on guard here, I'm pretty sure that means we also have to be on guard there too. So death, and I've heard somebody say this, death is not a cure for stupidity. So basically, everything you've gleaned and learned means that you need to carry that on. Now, as far as death here, my understanding is that this could be a person's first time around here. That could be a reason why a lot of people have been, I'm an atheist. Well, they don't believe anything. Maybe they've never really had any true experience after this life. Maybe they've never reincarnated. Maybe they've never been anywhere else, or something like that. I can't say. But as far as the reincarnation trap goes, I think that's what Jesus was trying to help with. I think a lot of people in the New Testament want to talk about condemnation, but what they ended up doing is there's a lot of stuff in the New Testament that does end up aligning with Egyptian Book of the Dead talk. With the Egyptians, they would eat their dead god, and they would drink its blood, and that's how they would get life. And I find it interesting how that's in the New Testament. And Jesus is said to have said that, according to that. But I think Jesus was talking more of a spiritual sense, But I think what he was really trying to say was, be caring and kind, giving to others, and this is what I'm about, really. So I think from a very, I don't know how to describe that, but in that type of perspective, in that type of sense, I think that's what Jesus was trying to say. But I find it interesting that if you read the Egyptian Book of the Dead, you find a lot of similarities that are in the New Testament, which makes me wonder, was this kind of like merged into what Jesus had to say? Did Jesus really talk about that? Or was that merged into there and kind of like conformed into it? Because, so far I've been reading the NAG Hammadi. I haven't really read about that yet. As far as, eating flesh and drinking blood, I haven't read that in a NAG Hammadi yet. Maybe I'll come to that. But there's thousands of pages in NAG Hammadi, and I'm still reading through it. So, but anyways, so the reincarnation trap, I haven't really been able to pinpoint a place. I can't remember it right now as far as the reincarnation trap goes, as far as in the NAG Hammadi. But Jesus does mention reincarnation in the New Testament. I think he's talking about John as the reincarnation of Elijah. I think that's what he was saying. I'm trying to remember who was the reincarnation person, but I think that's what it was. I think they said, well, I think that's what he said. But reincarnation has been talked about for a very, very, very long time. And only since about 2,000 years with the Bible, people were, and I don't even know if it's that long, but people were talking about just, when you die, if you did so many bad things, go to hell and that sort of thing. And there's no reincarnation or anything like that. Most modern Catholics will not promote reincarnation or talk about it, but a lot of other, Eastern religions and other religions will talk about this. So this has been talked about for, I don't know, probably like tens of thousands of years. I don't think we're I don't think the age of when we I think we've been here for a very, very long time. Human species has been here for a very, very long time. But I think people have reincarnated. I think it's possible people have reincarnated. Does everybody reincarnate? I don't think so. I don't think so, but I think some people do. Some people talk about that with their proof of, this person reincarnated from this child said this, they remember being this other person in their life, and, and it's like, well, maybe some people come back here to try to do something, get it right, or to help. You look at some Indian cultures and some gurus or some those types of people, they'll say they've reincarnated again and again. They wonder why they're coming back, but maybe they feel they have to come back to help out. So is there a possible reincarnation trap? I think with what it said in the New Testament, with what it said here, it seems like you have to be on guard all the time. You got to be careful. You got to know what's going on. And I think, yeah. But I think it's going to come down to your gut feeling, your inside. You're gonna feel whether you should go here or go there. And there's a lot of like TV shows and movies, and like even the old Twilight Zone would show a lot of this kind of stuff too. Be careful not to sign up with the devil. The contracts. There was this one really cool video I watched recently with this old farmer, and his dog died, and he couldn't go to the heaven because his dog couldn't come. And then, he could, so he didn't go to that particular heaven, but then he walked down the road. This angel told him, oh, that's hell. You don't want to go there. So he's like, well, why would he try to trick me? And the angel on the road is like, oh, they do that all the time. So, everything I've been able to read in the New Testament, just go with your feelings on things, If you feel like it's a good feeling inside you, you feel like, it's really that, then that's where you're going to be led to. But honestly, Jesus said we're all sons and daughters of God, and we're all part creators. So we should just have this knowing of what's right and what's wrong. We're going to have this feeling, And so I think if you're asking about that, some other ways of looking at it is question the entity, or question a thing that's attracting you when you go. Be certain that this is the right thing, Have a good instinctual presence of mind when you die. Make sure you're going to the right place. If they're just like, come with me, follow me, and you're like, who are you? I think you're this person, but I'm not sure. Question them. Ask them questions. Don't let them put you through the ringer. You put them through the ringer. You might be like, oh, you what? Yeah, do it. Your life is precious, but you have to make sure that you are on the right path. Now, what does the Bible do? What does the NAG Hammadi do? What does it do? It doesn't tell you just say this particular code or word and you're okay. It tells you how to do things for yourself so that you are able to lead yourself down the right path. It's a self-help book. It's all a big self-help book. So a lot of people look at this and they just go, all I have to do is say Jesus' name and that's it. Nope. Jesus wouldn't have said all these things if that was it. If he came down here just say my name and you're going to heaven, then it would literally be like a 3-page book. New Testament would be a 3-page book because that's all it would matter. So you have to do things to help yourself, help others, and be on guard against other things too. So is there a possible reincarnation trap? Well, if you see a light, make sure you know what it is. Question it. Study it. See what it, if it's the right thing. So I would say, yeah, be on your guard. Don't just jump into anything, because the fact is, even you look at people trying to talk to spirits now, you know, whether they're talking to the dead spirits or, you know, people performing this kind of thing. And it was kind of like pushed against in the Old Testament, like don't conjure spirits, don't do this, which I think King Solomon actually ended up still doing anyways. Don't conjure these spirits, don't do these things. And some people laugh at it, which is where you're going with the whole occult thing. They'll laugh at it like, nah, nothing happens. It doesn't work, nothing. Either they're not putting enough energy into doing that, to wanting it to be true, or the fact is like they don't really understand the ramifications of some of these things. You try to ask a spirit to work for you, well, it's going to demand pay. It's going to demand blood. It's going to demand something. And you got to be careful what you're asking for, because a lot of the times it's just like us. Here, we make contracts with other people. You know, I want you to come over and fix my roof because it's leaking. Okay, you got to pay me. You know, you make a contract with some entity out there. You know, like I want you to come over and help me become super successful. Okay, but you got to pay me. Why do you think all the music singers keep talking about selling their soul to the devil? Why do you think they do that? They want money. Well, it wants blood. You know, so I'm sorry. I'm sorry I'm making it sound like a joke, but it's kind of the fact of the matter. You listen to a lot of these very popular music singers, and in most of their songs, or not most of the songs, but you will hear at least one of their songs actually saying this. The really popular ones. And people will wonder, why do they do that? But then you put two and together and you're like, well, they are famous and they have a lot of money. And then they did that too. You ever notice like really like not so popular people that say those things and aren't popular? You wonder why that's kind of a popular thing. The prince of the earth, you know, the devil that rules, that controls the planet. You know, he wants to give things to people that will be underneath his foot. And I'm not going to be one of those. I'm not going to be under his boot. But there are a lot of other people that will be, and they'll sing about it, and they'll talk about it. And they'll glorify it. Look at all the stuff I've got. What are you doing to help other people? You know, I would like to know that. So anyways, with the reincarnation trap, I think just, you know, when you are traveling again, you know, you could say the word death, but this is a temporary experience, really. We got more to go. A lot of people think, oh, when you die here, you're dead and all that. Nothing ever happens. Well, when you die here, your ego of this dies. Your ego dies. So if you want to stay with your ego, you're going to feel a death. If you let go of that, you won't feel the death. You'll still be yourself. I mean, but it just, are you going to make it hard or are you going to make it easier on yourself, really? So I mentioned the book referred to by Peter in the Bible. This is Sylvanus. Is here. It's in the NAG Hammadi. And this is one of the reasons why I bought the book. It's teaching Sylvanus. So I probably just use a mirror, reverse that if you can. I can't really change the camera right now, but it's in the NAG Hammadi. It's in the NAG Hammadi. So the NAG Hammadi, you can check that out. Sylvanus is there. He was talking about Sylvanus. And then I find the teachings of Sylvanus in the NAG Hammadi, which it's not in the Bible. So I'm like, that's interesting. So I believe it was Peter. But so what else? Another channel. Oh yeah. So this is gonna be on my. I'll probably have to respond to this on this particular channel to send you to the new one that I have. But because I will be doing probably more strategy videos on this channel. And so, yeah, thank you so much for the question. I hope that answered that. I mean, I could go on quite some time more and talk about some more stuff. But, I mean, if you want me to read the book of Sylvanus, I can go through that. The teachings of Sylvanus, I can go through that. It's got a lot of good material in there. And, I mean, I would do it now, but it would probably take me like 45 minutes to get through it because it's like 40 pages or something. It's quite a long read, but it's a good one. So yes, thank you for the question. Hope you enjoyed this. I know it's been a little while since I responded, but been kind of busy with some stuff, so I'm getting into it now. I will probably have more time to get to things in the near future here as I'm working on some more stuff, but hope you have a great rest of your afternoon, evening, or night. And if you have any other questions or anything about what I've been able to read, research, understand, just ask me. This is a personal study of mine. And I have read through the Old Testament 2 times, well, 2.5 times now, and I've read through the New Testament 5 times. And so the reason I'm saying the amount of times is because sort of the amount of time seems to be key. Read through it once, might forget a lot of it. Read through it a second time, you remember a lot more. Read through it a third time, well, then, you know, you're putting pieces together. You're remembering it, you know. It's kind of like doing a puzzle. You're doing a puzzle once, you might not remember the pieces. 2 times, you'll start to remember. 3 times, you see where I'm going with this. The more times you put the puzzle together, the easier it is to put together, and the easier it is to, like, put everything together super fast, so you kind of get it. So, yeah, hopefully you like my little video there, but I will leave you there, and I will talk to you in the next video. Take care, and good night.